All right. So I also want to talk about mediumship. Cause what? You gotta walk me through that. Mediumship.
Yes. So I'd say mediumship, from what I know of it and from what I would define it as personally, is being able to give messages to other people and kind of tap into forms of energy, either from people that have passed or that exist and are unseen, and kind of relay that information to other people. So that's what I would describe mediumship as. I've talked to Jam before in general about how I'm an intuitive person, and I think that, well, I know that I have the capability of that, and I've had some very freaky instances in my life where I've been able to relay some information, or I've had, kind of insight on certain things, but it's not my purpose in life, and I really don't want to do it. I don't want to be a vessel. I love my spirituality. I think that it's a great part of me, but I don't think that my purpose in the universe is to give messages to other people primarily. I think it's to affect things on the ground, and I don't want that kind of responsibility because that's a lot of emotional responsibility, especially for a codependent person. I would rather avoid. And it was really, I mean, honestly, it's always been a little overwhelming for me. And I've kind of tapped into it again in the last 6 months. I've really thought a lot about it, and I feel a lot of things, and I feel a lot of energy, and I think I take on other people's energy really easily, even if I don't know them very well. So I've had to do a lot of work in practicing kind of knowing where my own energy is, what's my stuff, and what other people's stuff is. So one thing that I like to do at the beginning of the day is I start every day now for the last 6 months with tarot and meditation and visualization. I carry crystals with me that I know are going to protect me in certain ways. But one of my favorite visualizations that I get to do every day is that I imagine surrounding myself in white light. And anybody can do this, like at all. But white light is supposed to represent protection in the universe and kind of like knowing your field, like knowing what energy you have and going from there. So I picture like a nice bright ball of just really soft, warm, glowing light right above my head. And I let it kind of trickle down all around like the precipice of my body. And I just imagine it kind of glowing, and a nice little outline where I know this is where I am. This is the positive energy that's mine. I can give some of it to other people, but I'm going to keep a lot of it for myself. And I'm not really going to accept other energy in there unless I feel like it's positive too.
So are you feeling, like, is there like a warmth? Are you feeling something as this is going on?
I feel things primarily through my heart chakra, so I swell. That's honestly the best way that I can describe it. But if I find something, have you ever been like really excited about something, or you have one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, this is so great. And like that little tiny nugget on the really core inside of your chest just kind of like jumps for a second. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, but I feel that like all day long, like so much.
Wow.
I've gotten so much better. Like I said, once I realized like that's not my stuff, it's rote now, where I can pretty much live my day and not have to feel that if I don't want to.
Would it even be like, say you had an interaction with somebody at the other planet that was negative, and you would just kind of take that and carry it? Is that kind of what you mean, or
they can approach, and I kind of get this wary sense of like inside. It feels almost like their feelings right now. Like, let's say somebody's dog passed away, and they're really sad. Sorry to bring that up.
Well, it's scary because I had a friend's dog just pass away, so it's crazy. Yeah.
I kind of would feel in that nugget right there how I might have felt 3 years ago when my dog passed away, type deal.
Okay.
So connecting through experiences or feelings that I've had before, if somebody approaches and I know that they're probably having a bad day, or maybe know that something in the future may happen related to that. I feel a feeling that I've pretty much felt before.
So this is without conversation, right? This
Yes.
is just completely on approach.
Yeah. But it's not with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't want to be a vessel.
Yeah.
And I've been very scared of it for my whole life until, I mean, it's really been the last couple months of exploring a lot of the internet and a lot of crystal shops and talking to a lot of good people to figure out really what all this energy and all these feelings were. But now that I know, I can protect myself better, but also help people in opportune moments when I can.
And when you've had experiences before, is that something that just kind of came to you, or were you kind of looking out for it?
If I sit with somebody and I know they're having a really hard time, if I want to tap into it, it's almost like I can take a moment, I can kind of try to go outside of my realm of energy and feel theirs, and it almost feels like, let's say you're sitting in a coffee shop, across from each other, and there's this glass bubble around two people.
Okay.
If my eyes are closed, I can't see the glass bubble, but I can feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like an energy field almost?
Yeah. I'd kind of describe it as that. And I really just try to like kind of take in like what kind of feelings I'm feeling in my heart chakra. And then also sometimes I'll get like little visuals in my head, mostly flashes, nothing that maintains. But it really is just kind of like a mishmash of both the swelling and then like different possibilities and then almost like intuitive, like, did you have like a female figure that was like really kind of influential in your life or something like that? Kind of like feeling how I might have felt towards a more feminine energy in my life. I feel in my heart chakra, and it's not like I'm feeling it in my brain, but it's how maybe my grandmother made me swell in that particular way. Does that make sense?
So if you at some point in your life you've experienced something, and when the easiest way to relate to it, when you feel that there, it automatically relates to that emotion you've had in the past.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever had a situation where you didn't recognize the feeling?
Yes, and that scares me.
That's scary, yeah.
And I think a lot of times those are the more severe things, and usually as soon as I come across something like that, like a bad energy, I shut it out. Good. That's not mine. That's just not mine. That's why I don't want to be a medium. I want to keep my own energy. I want to try to spread good energy on the ground, but I don't want to mess with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. That could be dangerous, I guess,
I honestly feel like there's more, I'm just going to say, in the universe, there's more good energy out there than there is bad, but I feel like the bad energy is a lot more concentrated. I think the good energy is disseminated, but the bad energy, if there's a bad entity or there's a bad thing in someone, or there's a bad entity in a place left behind, that's very charged, and I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
You ever done that too, where you walk into a place and you're like, oh, something happened here?
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not special. I think that I'm just more in tune with it.
Or in tune?
Yeah. There are so many people out there. And honestly, I would venture to say most people have some type of intuitive ability. I mean, at a very base level, we just don't explore it, or it's covered by a lot of other layers. But I mean, we can all feel energy. It's just a matter of being able to recognize it.
I did just, I was hanging out with Cooper today with Gia, and I did just tell him the story about when we went to the Sequoia National Forest, the one I told you about.
Yeah.
And we went into this trailhead, and it was a horrible feeling we both felt, and we knew just to get out of there. And we were just trusted. There was nothing going on. It was just we went into a certain part of the trail, and right at the same time, both of us felt like some shit was gonna crack, like a bad, like goosebumps.
Yeah.
My head started to kind of hurt because I was afraid, and my instinct was to tell Gia immediately because I needed to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of give her this look, and I'm like, I have a bad feeling about this place. She goes, yep, me too. And I'm like, we should go. So we ran out. Yeah. And I think you should trust your intuition for sure.
Absolutely.
But it is weird because I've never really paid attention to my intuition, or at least I wasn't aware I was doing that until recently. And there have been like some situations the past couple weeks where I'm really tripping on myself, you know. But I know when we talked about it prior to the podcast, you did mention that it is okay to be afraid of it because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
But it can be a complete positive thing too, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the way you interpret it, I guess.
It's absolutely the way that you interpret it. When anything is new, especially when it's that powerful,
Yeah.
of course it's going to be scary.
You're like, what's going
Yeah,
on?
that's just human nature to be scared of things we don't know about just yet. But if you investigate the more positive aspects of spirituality and how you can actually use it as a tool to help you make really good decisions in life and how to make a great impact on other people, oh my gosh, it's so worth it. And you learn that, those bad feelings, they happen sometimes. But like I said, there's more good energy in the world than bad.
I think I totally believe that because I'm sure there have been moments where I feel like this is going to be a good day or, like something good's going to happen, but it just feels so normal compared to the negative. So it does feel like there's a higher percentage of positive energy than negative. And plus I think it's in human nature to I don't know, to be comfortable with positive things that happen. Like when you have a really good day at work, or let's say you have a normal good day at work, it's not really good, but it's, nothing bad happened, it was fine. And you go home, how's work? It was good, right? And if it was a shitty day, you go home like, how's work? It was horrible, this happened, because you focus more on the negative, which you were saying, people tend to concentrate more on the negative when you feel that. So that's a really crazy way to relate it, but
yeah, I mean, we definitely pick up on other people's energies because if somebody negative walks in and then they interact with you or whatever, I mean, you're going to be ticked off in some way or whatever. And whether you realize it or not, it's not only their behavior that's affecting your behavior, it's also their energy.
Right.
I think that it's very easy to be like, well, they did this, so now I feel bad. But also just their energy and the kind of thing that they bring about, because sometimes they don't really do anything at all. It's just like
you could just feel.
You just feel like
the vibes.
Yeah, like I don't want to hang out with you. Like every time I hang out with you, you're not doing anything specifically wrong, but like you have good intention about you.
Sometimes going to work is difficult when I'm not feeling good, because I know that because I'm a manager there at Daily Planet, and Daily Planet's a cafe, guys, if you don't know what that is. And when I walk in and I start my shift and I know I'm feeling shitty, sometimes, I don't want to admit it, I have to pretend to be in a good mood, because if I don't, people will pick up on the vibe that I'm giving off, and it will make the shift so bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes I can't help myself, so.
Yeah, but especially as a manager, that's great that you kind of can put yourself aside in some aspect.
There's like this split of putting your personal aside and just doing, business or work.
Yeah.
I think that's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
But
I love my job at Summit, especially.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know what? You work. I'm sorry. So you said you went to school for special education.
Yep.
And that relates to your current full-time job now.
Yes.
And that is at Summit, which is, go ahead.
Woo! Summit Center is an awesome place in Buffalo. And it is a school that serves individuals and children mostly, but has some adult programs too, with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but specifically behavioral difficulties. I would say the majority of the kids at Summit Academy they live with autism, but there's other developmental disorders and things like that built in there too. But we use an applied behavior analysis method, which is pretty much the only evidence-based treatment right now out there for autism. But I actually work in the preschool division, so I get to work with early intervention of children with autism, and it is awesome. It is so cool.
Yeah.
Autism is one of the most fascinating things. It just in its genetic nature, in its symptomatic nature, and also the kids are beyond intelligent. You know, I think that people forget that autism is a developmental disorder. It's not really an intellectual disorder in the sense that, I mean, even adults with severe autism, what we see later on, it looks like they have some type of intellectual, you know, or cognitive delay or things like that. But if you think about it, if when you're little, you have a ton of issues with processing things sensory wise, you're not going to be able to learn or acquire skills the way a child who didn't have those processing difficulties did. So they miss developmental milestones and periods because they're distracted by how their brain processes different senses. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't have a chance to learn things at the same rate or during that formative time period that, you know, you or I as privileged neurotypical people did. But you get to see, though, I mean, in these kids, how beautifully smart and kind and loving they really are. And it really, you have to look a little bit harder for it than you might with a child who's verbal and, you know, showing all the typical, you know, aspects of a 3 or 4-year-old. But these kids are special.
Yeah.
They are just special. So.
And a lot of them are nonverbal?
Yep. So I work, I'm a behavior support tech. So basically I put out fires all day long.
Shit.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I have one classroom that is mostly nonverbal and then one that is more verbal for the most part. But being verbal is really no indicator of intelligence level or even functioning. But it is definitely a barrier to communication. I will definitely give it that. But we use a ton of different systems. We use like a communication system called PECS, where we have the kids kind of walk around with these almost binder-looking things that have pictures all over them. And there's a specific way that we teach them to request items or different types of food. And, you know, so they can basically take a picture off their binder, stick it on a piece of plastic, a sentence strip, and then hand it to us, and it'll say, I want juice. You know?
Wow,
yeah. So we teach them to spontaneously request things so that they can have their needs met. Because if you think about it, if you can't speak, if you have a headache, if something's, you know, not feeling good, or you need to eat and you're hungry, or you want to play with a certain toy, you can't express that. And then what people don't realize either is, you know, for people of any age with autism, when they do have really intense behaviors, imagine how fucking pissed off you would be all the time if you couldn't communicate, if you couldn't get your needs out there. So whenever they have behaviors, yes, sometimes it's like, I know you can do better than this type deal, but I also have to recognize, and I feel bad. I feel like they're frustrated because they can't get something across to me, you know, and that's understandable. I would be super pissed too if I didn't have functional communication skills.
You guys ever experiment with sign language? I've seen that a lot.
A little bit. With some of the younger kids, we mostly try to use different devices and iPads and things like that. But I know a lot of people with Down syndrome. I used to be really involved in a club called Best Buddies, so it was more broad intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. But they really ascribe to sign language a lot of times. Cool. Not as much with autism.
Okay, I wonder why. Do you know what the...
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it's... that's a really good question. I don't want to answer because I don't know the exact answer.
No, yeah, I'm just curious.
But I'm actually going to look into that. I'll let you know. Yeah.
So, do some people that have autism, do they ever just stay nonverbal?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
And what do you know? An estimate on the ratio of nonverbal to verbal? Like at some point, I'm sure some people do.
I don't
start. Right? They when they break through and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny actually. I was just talking to a coworker the other day. I never worked with this child, but I worked with her brother, and they were saying that there was a student. She was 3 and she was nonverbal, And she was going through speech, and it was like a year of like trying to get her just to like make a vocalization, and be like, whenever you show her a toy, and get her to like show, I want that type deal.
Right.
So it was a year's worth of speech paths, like really working on this teachers, really reinforcing anytime she made any type of sound. And then I guess one weekend her little brother accidentally like deleted everything on her device that is like her voice.
Oh,
you know, like I want this or I want that. So her brother accidentally deleted everything. And I guess she came in on Monday and she was like, juice, you know, Pop-Tart, da-da-da. So
wow,
right?
So she almost became reliant.
Yeah,
sounds like a
you know,
bit on
sometimes sometimes it's a behavioral thing, but for the most part, sometimes they don't have. There's their genetic code is messed up so that it does not code for the part in their brain that processes things coming in receptively. So when I speak to you and I say, go get the dishes.
No.
Always a no. Receptively, you are hearing this and being like, oh, well, I need to have that action of go get the dishes.
Right.
When I say that to somebody with autism who has processing issues and sensory issues, it's either not getting through or it's not being processed correctly, things like that. So it's at the same time that they may not be able to get that language out, you know, maybe the part of their brain that, you know, it produces speech, Broca's area, isn't formed in the typical way, you know, or doesn't function in the typical way. So they can't create that language to tell you, you know. Yeah. So that's why we create other systems. That's why we create PECs and all these AACs, which is like augmentative devices, you know, things to add to people's ability to express things. But yeah, so there are definitely some people that will never be verbal. Wow. A lot of the kids that I work with now in the nonverbal room, you know, I'm going to say, you can't estimate anything, but I've worked with enough people with disabilities where I can imagine, I'd say 80% of the kids in that room will stay at Summit till they graduate. And I would say maybe 60% will end up being verbal in some capacity. Okay. But the other 40 may never, ever speak.
Well, when you say graduate, like it's an actual school. Yep. And it goes from what to what, grade-wise?
It goes all the way up to kids are 21. So in the American special ed system, everybody ages out at the age of 21. And then you look into adult services and things like that if that's needed. But the nature of Summit is if a school district cannot behaviorally serve the needs of a child, they are sent to Summit, and we teach them. We don't really have we don't teach at all in the way that people teach and not to be like bougie or whatever, like we don't teach that way, but we don't ascribe to a lot of the core curriculum or common, you know, core things that you hear about in the news. We teach functional skills. We teach a lot of basic play skills. What people don't realize is, I mean, our 3 and 4-year-olds come in and they don't know how to play with toys. So we literally, I mean, I think I've spoken with you a little bit about this before, but the nature of ABA is, there's other parts to it too. It's not just discrete trial training, what we do in teaching form. And there's, it's basically trying to shape their behavior to learn a new skill. Okay. And we reinforce them for practicing new skills. So everything that our kids do is like recorded on an iPad. It's very official. We track all their progress and their data and things like that. But going back to, you know, basic toy play, which is a lesson play of ours or whatever. A lot of times kids with autism will just kind of stim on things and be happy because, again, sensory kind of things coming in, the processing is kind of different. So I have, there's all different types of stim, but there's kids that'll flap their hands. There's kids that will just look at something and turn it over and over and over again. There's kids that will rock back and forth. There's kids that will have vocal stims, things like that. But they would rather do that a lot of times than engage in actual play or imaginative play or symbolic play, things like that. So, I mean, literally one of our lesson plans is like, we reinforce them for putting rings on a ring stacker. Okay. You know? Yeah. So like they know, I have these materials in front of me, I'm not just going to take this ring and like flip it back and forth 10 times.
They know they have to put it.
Yeah, we're going to put it on here. And like, eventually they learn, okay, maybe that's kind of enjoyable. You know? We actually, I mean, we have a little boy right now who did the typical autism thing of, lining up all of his toys.
Mm-hmm.
So he has these little guys, and he likes to like line them all up. And he would just pick them out of the line, look at one, put it back. Pick up the next one, look at it, put it back. Da, 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 da. Go down the line, start again.
Mm-hmm.
But we really have had a lot of great breakthroughs with him, and that now he'll like pick up Batman, and you'll see him like
Oh, wow,
make him fly, things like that. He's getting very animated, and like his voice with it. He's nonverbal, but like he'll be like, like, you know, and you know in his head like so they're fighting, and like this one is doing that. So I mean, we really have broken through and kind of started to teach
amazing.
him. It's great.
Oh,
it's actually it's very funny because we were playing on the playground the other day, and he like just like shoved this girl out of nowhere, and which I was like, what? Why would you do that? And but right before that, this is the behavior sim baby. I'm like, what are they doing at all times? But right before that, he was doing his like like sounds or whatever. I think he's starting to like generalize this to like, I'm gonna be the superhero.
Okay, so like, he's playing.
Yeah,
he's actually playing with the girl.
Yeah,
yeah.
But he just wants to use her as a prop.
Right.
So
right.
like, there's
so as far as
there's a social aspect of autism where it's like, we got to teach him that people aren't props. You know.
So it's like you establish you succeed in one thing. You know,
Yeah.
and then you're like, wait,
but wait,
this is not okay. We should probably figure out a way.
Yeah. So there's always something. It's,
yeah.
Autism is extremely fascinating, and it's pretty obvious I love my job. So.
Yeah.
And how much of it is attempting them to get to play with each other, or is that not even like?
Oh, well, I haven't even really ventured into like the higher functioning. I'm using air quotes here, kids. But I'd say for the kids that are verbal and have like pretty clear academic skills and things like that, we do a ton of lesson plans that surround interacting with peers, playing social games, like chase or things like that, kind of having volleying conversations.
So it's kind of the next step.
Yes, that's the next step, exactly. And so the goal of Summit is we're building our own curriculum where, we evaluate a child coming in, what skills do they have, what do they not have. Each of them has a personalized curriculum just for them, with lesson plans that we have kind of just already pat down, and then they master certain lesson plans, and as they master old ones, new ones will pop up in our system, and it's like, okay, so they might be ready for matching 2D to 3D non-identical objects.
Wow,
they might be ready for this, so there's prerequisite skills that they master, and then we go on to the next step. Which is really awesome. And it's a great way to kind of track and see. I can't wait until some of my kids have graduated or whatever. We can see the progress throughout, like when they went through spurts, when they didn't.
Yeah. Are there multiple schools? Are there multiple summits?
We are, I would say, I consider us like one of the best schools for autism in the nation. But there are definitely other ABA schools out there, other schools that practice very specific ways of reinforcing behaviors that you want to increase and things like that. But it's few and far between. I think it's the future of special education in general, not even just for kids with autism. But we are really a pioneer school.
That's awesome.
I know that they're building a school near the capital region, like near Albany. Same.
My bad.
They're building a school near Albany that ascribes to some ABA type stuff, but we do it all day long, which is very unique. So we're pretty cutting edge.
It almost seems like it would have to be. I mean, I don't know what goes on in public schools, but even just resources wise, it would seem like such an advantage to have your kid in a place like Summit compared to just going to.
Our ratio is 1-to-1 for students. We only do. I mean, I shouldn't say we only do individualized instruction. We do some group instruction, but like a lot of our kids in the preschool that are in the room where it's mostly nonverbal kids, we are always 1-to-1 with the kids, teaching them, or there's a service provider like a speech person or an OT person in there.
How many kids do you work with?
I have 16. I have like 32 kids on my caseload.
Okay, so wow.
But I'm just the behavior aspect.
Oh, right.
But I also will pop in and do academic stuff with them too if I have an iPad available and I want to work with a kid. Because honestly, my job is to make sure that I not only address maybe behaviors that they're having at home and things like that with social stories or whatever, but that we can get the most work out of them as possible so that they can learn the most possible. And a lot of times their behaviors get in the way of that.
Right.
Believe it or not, you know?
No.
Like if we can't make it back from the bathroom back to our desk, like we're not getting anything done that day. So like I have to get really crafty in how I get them up off the floor and back to their seat. So that's really...
So you have to be very creative.
Oh yeah. It's a great job
So, best way you can explain it, give me a little bit of day in the life of being a behavioral, what is it?
Support tech. Eventually I'll be a behavior analyst. So like one step where I like have the degree behind it.
Right. But tell me what like a normal day at Summit is like for you.
I'd say, well, the kids come in. So I bring them in from the buses. Sometimes I get to be the bus person. So I got my little like walkie-talkie, and I'm cool. Like, you know,
official
preschool sheriff. That's pretty cool. The kids come in and we'll feed them like a nice little snack, like morning breakfast thing or whatever. And it's usually chaos at all times, especially in the one room that I work primarily in. It is survival. Like I'm being completely serious.
Yeah.
Because I mean, unless we're, you know, during work time, 1-to-1, it's, I'd say like 4 adults to like 8 kids with severe autism.
Dang.
And they're also preschoolers, so they want to touch everything and like be all over the floor, and just like sometimes they do things like, what are you doing?
Like,
why are you standing on the table? Like, what is happening?
Right.
But yeah, so I'll help bring in kids. We'll do like a snack thing, and then we'll take them to their work areas. They all have like little individualized cubbies and work areas that they go to, unless you're in the integrated preschool room, which is awesome. Summit has a couple rooms where there are neurotypical kids as well as kids with autism, so that you can run lesson plans with like a normal air quotes classroom or whatever. But yeah, so I'll do that. I'll pop in, hear that. And most of my day is honestly spent with a child flopped on the floor screaming and crying. Then I'm like kind of either waiting them out, or I know that they really enjoy Slinky Dog, the toy. So I get them to, you know, if you want Slinky Dog, you need to sit in the chair.
Right.
So, you know, eventually they'll be like, you know, and they'll sit in the chair for me. And then, you know, I let them play with Slinky Dog for a second, reinforcing them for following my instruction. And then I give them a time warning, because kids with autism need time warnings.
Right.
And transitions are really hard. And then I will say, all right, you know, in 30 seconds, we're going to take Slinky Dog and move over to the next chair. And then I'll put another chair there. And I'll kind of guidedly take Slinky Dog and move them over to the next chair. Right. And now we're closer to their work area. Wow, amazing.
So you came up with this on your own?
No.
Oh,
There's other systems. My boss is awesome, and she taught me that trick. But there's also other tricks, like little things that I've picked up where I'm like, okay, that will work for this kid, but that would not work for this kid.
Okay.
So you have to really know what their motivators are.
Right, yeah.
We do preference assessments all the time, where I literally get 30 minutes to just like feed kids like every single combination of foods that they might like possible. Literally like cutting up Skittles and Oreos and M&Ms. And I present 2 things at a time, and then I'm like, pick one.
Man.
And then I graph the results of like, if they were given an Oreo and an M&M, which did they pick? You know? And then I have like, it's just.
And it all has to be recorded, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So I have to know exactly what might motivate them. I have to make sure that I know things that might trigger them. I have to know their early warning signs, you know. If I know a kid really has a hard time walking past the playground, like at the bus before we go to the playground with an iPad and like the biggest smile, and we're having a party. I mean, I've literally done a bubble party on the way in to get a child. Yeah. Like, oh my God, it's bubble! And like one of those big bubble machines, we're like having fun as we're walking. We don't even know the playground exists. It's fine.
Right.
We're not gonna flop. It's all good. You know?
Keep them.
Yeah, keep going. You know? So just being proactive, and that's really my day. I also, anytime that I can get away and I'm not dealing with a behavior, or helping out in the classroom, sometimes it also is just another teacher has it. You know, I try not to intervene, because you don't want to undermine another teacher
Oh, yeah.
Who's in the middle of an instruction sequence, because you don't want kids to learn, like, I can walk all over them, and, like, I only listen to one person.
Right.
So, like, maybe helping them, like, giving, like, a little advice under my breath or things like that, or giving them a reinforcer that I know he might like. Or it might just be letting them deal with it entirely on their own, and then I take their kid, and we do a couple trials or lesson plans. So it really just depends. And then other days I get to sit in my office on my computer and make social stories, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I recently made one about a farmer who poops on a potty.
Here we go with the poop.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Everything comes back to poop.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. Cool. Yeah. Coming up with, like, ways to reinforce kids. Sometimes it really involves, like, following kids around with a timer and reinforcing them with cookies every 30 seconds.
Wow.
So that they have a quiet voice. Like,
so just on sugar highs all day.
Pretty much.
Are you ever exhausted by the time you get to the cafe? Yeah.
Yes.
You play a pretty good face then, because I can't tell.
Well, just the patience involved in what you're doing there, I can't even. It's exhausting.
Like, how do you take an order from an asshole after, you know, having such a vigorous, you know, day?
I don't really know. I don't take a lunch break really ever at Summit, which is like low-key not good. But like, I think that my kids have really taught me that patience is a virtue and needed. And so when I do get those bitchy customers, which isn't, I don't know, I feel like I'm really good at charming people right from the start. So like maybe I might avoid that.
Just get them before they can even.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think that they've taught me.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do. Respect you a lot for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean
that. Just the moving I'm still stuck on the moving the chair.
Yeah, that example kind of gave me anxiety.
You can get people to do anything if you motivate them correctly. And sometimes you have to be very specific about observing their behavior and, like, seeing what they may enjoy or what they may not enjoy, and being really crafty with the techniques that you employ, but you can get people to do anything.
Well, it's a good life lesson.
Yeah, it really is. Speaking about kids, you did mention you were a shit kid. Now, to anyone that doesn't know
that before,
okay, so
you can explain it to me.
Yeah, please do explain it to people that don't know what that is.
A shit kid.
I love it, by the way. I just love it.
Seems so negative.
It's not.
No.
It's just not.
It's a shit kid.
Okay, if you say it like that, if you say it with that tone, then yeah.
A shit kid is someone who doesn't give a fuck. But they're not classy, they're not trashy, but they just do what they kind of want to do. And even if that's kind of illegal or something like that, like, it's fine. They know how to cover their tracks. They're not a bad person. They don't really give a fuck.
All right.
At all.
You just do you, you know?
Yeah, like, if you want to... Okay, I probably shouldn't say
No,
anything.
you could say, I
didn't
smoke
necessarily
weed
do
sometimes.
it.
Okay, if you...
No.
Just we can give examples. General examples.
General examples.
Just fuck whatever people think. You know?
Yeah, well,
listening.
I'm just going to be really crafty about how I explain things.
Sure, let's hear this. I mean, you're creative every day.
So, like, on Friday, I walked around with a friend of ours, and there was a certain piece of property that may be owned by the government. And, you know, it's a novelty item, and like, it would be nice to maybe have that in my home. So, like, that was pursued. And prior to that, you know, there was a potato that we found, and it was used very artfully to engage in a recreational activity.
Oh my god.
That was very enjoyable.
Honestly, that was the best description of it.
Pretty good.
That was
very
good. Because you stayed?
I'm on board.
Okay, me too.
And then afterward, we just kind of sat on these rocks that were covered with graffiti and just talked for like 2 hours. And then I went to sleep. And then the next day, I went to work early. And
Summit, right?
No, actually, this was... People don't realize, you can be professional and then also be a shit kid.
Oh, I completely agree.
It's about that.
You do a great job of it.
I think I do an amazing job.
Yeah.
I think I'm less of a shit kid now than I was. I don't even know how you could define that. In the sense where if you were one or you always will be one, like, you know how, like, alcoholics are like, I'm always going to be an alcoholic, but I'm recovering. You know what I mean? That's what I kind of feel like regarding the shit kid.
You're a recovering
I'm a recovering shit kid.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think that's the best way I could describe it because I think growing up, I just was always a shit kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew what I was doing. I was completely aware of what I was.
It's exciting, and it's not worth it in life to just like play by the rules all the time. Because if I want to do something, I want to fucking do it.
Yeah, like just do it, you know. And I think a lot of the people I grew up with we were all shit kids, because I've known these people to this day for 17 years, and we went through a lot of crazy phases, and it was all shit kid phases, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it gives you stories. It really does. Really great stories,
really
right?
great stories.
I was just reminiscing with a friend on Saturday about one Halloween. There was this pumpkin at a bar, and we were dancing at this club or whatever. And we found this pumpkin. We're like, oh my god, a pumpkin! So my friend
found a pumpkin.
Yeah, we just found a pumpkin. It was actually on rafters. I had to kind of go
oh my
over.
god.
Yeah, it was really dangerous, but it's fine. I didn't die. So this pumpkin was there, and my friend's trying to smash a beer bottle because I was like, carve it, you know. So we're doing that. That was stopped because she couldn't smash the damn bottle, which I'm still salty about.
Yeah, what the hell?
But at some point, I think we ended up leaving, and I didn't want to leave the pumpkin behind, and I was like, I'm just gonna take it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a large pumpkin. This is like a both arms around level pumpkin.
Oh my god, how did you?
Well, I got past the police officers that were out there spontaneously, just chilling. My friend Kyle was like, I can't believe you got that past the cops. And what happens? They fucking turn around.
He's saying it while you're still.
She's a great kid, but so
damn you.
Yeah. So then the cop turns to me and he's like, "Did you get that from inside?" And then. And I'm just standing there with
big ass pumpkin.
Yeah, my costume and just kind of drunk and just held it and I was like, no, I brought it in. And
wow.
Yeah.
Did you?
And he's like, give me the pumpkin. I was like, so I gave him the pumpkin and I walked away. But still,
damn it,
I lied to a police officer.
You did. Yikes. He was like, drunk kid, man. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, yeah. See, that was probably a bad idea. But just things like that.
Yeah.
They gives you stories.
So mad. You got a redemption.
I do. I gotta steal.
Not sure I've ever seen a pumpkin in a bar.
I have seen a pumpkin in a bar. What were you gonna do with the pumpkin exactly?
I bonded with it.
Yeah.
Really, that's all that matters. I mean, an hour later, there was some guy that we found who had an Up costume. He was the guy from Up, but he had this cardboard box that was the house and these balloons all over it. So I told him, I was like, oh my god, I had this pumpkin and I lost it, and he really had sympathy for me. So I was like, this is awesome, thank you so much. So
the power of alcohol.
Yeah, so he cut off a balloon from his house. It was one of those heartwarming things that ever happened. Yeah. And tied it around my wrist. And it was really cute. And I spent the next hour, we went to bars and I had a balloon. I was dancing and I was that kid. And this was a really hard night for me. We ended up walking home and somehow it got off my wrist and flew away. And I just remember being so sad and dropping to my knees in the middle of the street and just going, Wilson! Castaway levels of separation, and it was so sad.
So dramatic.
Yeah, fucking a pumpkin and a balloon in one night.
Yeah, 2 losses in one night. I'm real sorry. No, that happened to you.
I'd be bouncing back from that though.
Me too. And the next day I was so hungover that I was driving home and I had to pull over and throw up in Denny's bathroom.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that'll make you feel better.
Do you guys have Carl's Jr. out here in Western New York?
No.
Hardee's?
We get the commercials, but I've never seen one.
I know they're in some states, but in California there's a burger joint called Carl's Jr. It's like a typical burger joint, and they have trays that they serve food on it, you pick it up, and you put it on top of the trash can when you're done, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember my friend that I haven't talked to in forever, his name's Chris, him and I were shit kids together, and we... partner in crime, we did everything together, bad shit that I can't even talk about. Yeah, but there was a time where for a long time, we kept stealing trays from Carl's Jr. Amazing. So we can use them on our skateboards. I forget what we did, but I remember we would put them on the skateboards, as a sled kind of seat, and we would just ride down this big ass hill, sometimes even without the skateboard, and just book it down the hill. And I remember one time there was a Carl's Jr. employee whose mission was to go find
Carl's
us.
Jr. as a pizza place is completing the story.
As a what?
As a pizza, it's just the name. Carl.
It was like the 17-year-old kid. He doesn't want to go look for a bunch of middle schoolers, but that was his mission, you know, for the day, and he found us. And I just remember, like, throwing the trays at this kid, like, fuck you, you're not gonna fucking catch us.
The guy from Carl's Jr. Scram.
Yeah, which he was so pissed at his life. Like, he kind of did the whole, like, fuck me, fucking kids, I hate you. Yeah, but that was,
How did you sneak the trays out?
So, Carl's Jr. was right next to our middle school, and that was the spot to go to after school. And we would just hang out there, and we would put them in our backpacks. Because they were, like, just little 15-inch trays, you know, and we would just shove them in our backpacks. And I think we had, like, 6 or 7. And I think I have one, like, stashed in my house somewhere, probably. Not even joking. Yeah. I'm pretty sure within that, like, same year, I stole a shopping cart and put it in my room, actually.
Wow.
Because I wanted to use it as a hamper, and my mom was pissed.
Badass.
Yeah, I had a shopping cart in my room.
Rolled it in the house.
When my parents were still at work, I fucking rolled a shopping cart into my room, and I put my clothes in there. And when my mom came in to tell me to do laundry, she was like, "What the fuck is this?"
That's amazing.
And honestly, they let me keep it in there for like a week, and then they were like, "This is good."
What did you do with it?
So I had to put it out in the corner. They collect.
Oh.
There was a grocery store that's next to my house.
Okay.
Right down the street. So people like walk with their carts back home and they'll just leave them in the neighborhood. I remember this guy, older guy, he just did it for like $8 an hour and he was retired. He would go around, he would collect the carts and bring them back to the grocery market.
Grocery cart as a hamper.
Yeah, it was great. I put my skateboards in it. I use it as a hamper. It was but yeah, shit kid. That's what.
Alright.
Yeah, fun.
I mean,
really care.
I don't know if this is a compliment or not. I'm seeing it as a fellow shit kid as a compliment, but like I can picture you, even if it wasn't next to your house, this grocery store, you just like walking from a parking lot of a Wegmans type thing and just like rolling it on home, being like, I'm just going shopping, fuckers. Like it's fine. Lights really Wegmans on fire, as leaves. Like,
bad. You want to hear a really bad story?
Lighting grocery stores on fire?
About fire.
You'd have so many, like, cooked meats, though, that are, like, perfectly... That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I would scavenge for burgers afterward.
Would you?
Absolutely, shit kid.
That same kid, Chris, and I made friends with a kid named Michael. And so we became 2 shit kids into 3 shit kids. Michael, he was crazy. It's like we met him and we were like, we're fucking recruiting you because you're wild as shit. And the way we met him was he was trying to hit a teacher with a skateboard. It was dangerous, actually.
Like throwing it?
Yeah, because he was trying to steal it.
So you're
from
like,
them.
that kid's gonna be my new best friend.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. That's what it was like.
Crazy Michael.
Michael A. I'm not gonna say his full last name. Yeah. So the day before winter break, we planned. I guess it would synchronize arson would be the best way to explain it.
Synchronized arson is a great aesthetic.
Arson is fire, right?
Yes.
Just making sure. Okay.
Don't tease me like that.
So the plan was there were 3 main dumpsters in the school. Actually, there were 4, but we chose 3 because obviously there's only 3 of us. And at the end of lunch, we were gonna ditch 5th period because 5th period came after lunch. So the plan was, right before 5th period, we were going to light all 3 trash cans on fire. Which we did.
Whose idea was this?
Mine and Chris's. Michael was like, actually, he was very quiet, but he would do crazy shit.
Dumpster fire.
He's probably in jail right now.
He's actually not doing good right now, and it's kind of sad. But on the real, this is why I tell you I'm like a recovering shit kid.
Yes. I don't know if I'm dumpster fire levels of shit kid.
But that was yeah.
But that is awesome.
I
have crazy respect.
It was bad. It was great. It was bad. We got into some shit.
If I was like a pinch braver, yes.
But this is crazy because Chris, Michael, and I were at the top of our class. We aced all our tests. We hated homework, but we were very good at school.
Yeah.
And we were in the honors magnet academy. But you had
smart to be a shit kid. You
right.
Come up with,
synchronized fires.
Smart because they don't get caught.
You're bored.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got away with it because of course we got caught. Someone ratted on us. I'm not gonna say who, but thank you for ratting on us because we had to learn a lesson.
You could say it right now. I wouldn't judge you. Hear that, bitch.
I hope they didn't hear that. She's actually doing very well in life.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. But luckily there were janitors to put out the fire. At the time it was cool as shit, but now I think about a lot of people could have gotten hurt.
Firefighter janitor is also
Yeah.
aesthetic, but that's fine.
Yeah, but the fires didn't end up being as big as we thought they were gonna be. They were just like tiny fires in the dumpster. But we still got in trouble for it, and we got away because our grades are amazing. Like, this is a great story to tell, you know?
Yeah.
That, like, what the hell? Synchronized arson. Juli, I think that what you've accomplished in life and what you are doing now is an amazing thing, and you're an awesome person.
No.
I just had to say that. You are one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And, like, ditto at you. Very much so. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for
I appreciate it.